Today's topic, we'll be speaking about the 6 heroines of the Exodus. Okay? Not the heroes, Chava, but the heroines. Okay.
I want to speak about heroes.
Not heroine. Evelyn, welcome back. Good to have you back where you belong, right? You better. Okay. Before we get to the 6 heroines of the Exodus, the Talmud tells us in Masechta Sota, page 11, B'schar noshim tzidkoniot nigalu yisrael b'Mitzrayim. Sota 11 tells us that the entire Exodus only took place because of not Moshe, Aaron, or the Shivim Zekanim, Abraham, but only noshim tzidkoniot. Only for the noshim tzidkonios, and that's why the Exodus happened. Sota, page 11. And the Zohar says that just like the first Geula in Mitzrayim took place only because of what? The Noshim Tzidkoniot. So the final Geula will also take place, not because of the chief rabbis, but Dafkin Noshim Tzidkoniot. Isn't that amazing? You ladies got us over a barrel, okay? Now, it's very interesting that before we get to our source sheets, please put them on ice. We're not using them yet. Before we get to our source sheets, everything in the Seder revolves around 4. You ever wonder why, Mikimia? There are 4 cups, 4 expressions of redemption, 4 children. The name Pesach has 4 names. You know that? Yehuda Chaga Pesach, Chaga Aviv, Chaga Cherut, and Chaga Matzot. So the name Pesach has 4 names. There are 4 cups, 4 children, 4 terms of endearment, 4 terms of redemption, right? And how many mitzvahs are there on Pesach night min Torah? 4. Rivka Pesach, Matzah Mora, Vigara Tolabincha. The Dalet Kosot, that's only the Rabbanan. But everything revolves around 4. Min Torah, Rabbi Yaakov, there are 4 Torah mitzvahs on Pesach night. Pesach, to eat the korban Pesach, which we can't do today. But when the temple stood, the Pesach, Matzah and Moror, and the Vigara Tolabincha. Tell over your children, right? So everything revolves around what? 4.
Rabbi?
Why, Rabbi Reuven?
Pesach is equal to 4 times 37 in Gematria.
Wow. Thank you for being here. Wow. So the Medrash says, you know why? Beautiful, Rivka. That the whole redemption happened because of the mamas, not the papas. How many mamas are there? 4. So the 4, the motif of Pesach night revolves around the 4, representing what? The 4 matriarchs. And they represent what? The Noshim Tzidkoniot. And therefore 4. Everything on Pesach night revolves around the number 4 because it represents the 4 mothers who represent what? The righteous women that caused the Exodus. And again, the Zohar says that just like the first Exodus, the first Geula happened because of the Noshim Tzidkonios, so the final Geula will also happen in the schus of what? The Noshim Tzidkonios. Why did Tefillin have 4 parshas? I gave you a hint. Why not 5 or 6? The 4 parshas in the Tefillin represent what? The 4 mothers. And the Tefillin reminds of the Exodus, right? What do you put on Tefillin? Parshas Bo, Ki b'choizek yad, Tzion Hashem Mitzrayim. The Torah tells us in the end of Parshas Bo, why did God command us to put on Tefillin? To remind us of what? Of the Exodus. And the Exodus was caused by what? The 4 mothers, i.e. the women of Israel. So therefore they are what? They are 4 parshas in the Tefillin. Did you know that? Not 5.
Yeah,
Ooh.
Rabbi
Yaakov Goldman must have ESP. Wee, wee. There's a 4-headed shin on the Tefillin Shel Rosh. Why 4-headed shin? That represents the 4 mothers. Isn't that amazing? The The four-headed shin represents the four mothers of Israel, who represent the Noshim Tzidkoniot, and the entire Exodus only happened because of the Noshim Tzidkonios. That's pretty amazing, right? The word Neshama, the word Shechina, the word Torah, the word Mitzvah are all what? Coinky dinky? I don't think so. Okay. Now we're ready to get to our source sheets. Okay. Who are the 6 heroines of the Exodus? Okay. 6?
Now there's 6.
What? No, I said the 4 mothers represent the Noshim Tzidkonios. But in the Noshim Tzidkonios that actually were there at the Exodus, they're actually what? 6 heroines. Who are the 6 heroines that caused the Exodus? Who are they? Well, let's take a look. First of all, there was what? Yocheved. Behind every good man is his mother.
Oh yeah, Moshe Rabbeinu's mother.
Right? Right, Avram? Behind every tzaddik, there's his mother. So, Yocheved, the first heroine, who risked her life to save her child. Why did she put him in the Nile?
To save him.
Well, why didn't she, I don't know, put him somewhere, I don't know, in the tree? She was a good citizen. Pharaoh said, put your baby boy in the river. So didn't she do that?
Yeah.
She's a good citizen. So she put him in the river, get it? So Yocheved. Then you have Miriam. Miriam, right? You're counting. Shifra and Pua. The Rashbam does not agree with his grandfather. Rashi says that Shifra and Pua were Yocheved and Miriam. The Rashbam says, sorry, Grandpa, I don't agree. Eza Nachis, that a grandson can argue with his grandfather. The holy Rashbam argues with his grandfather, and he says, no, Grandpa, Shifra and Pua were the original Raoul Wallenberg, who saved my mother and 100,000 other Jews. That's a story in its own. My brother wrote a book about it. Shifra and Pua, according to Rashbam, Lillian, were the original Raoul Wallenberg, who defied the king, risked their lives to save Jewish children. Like Wallenberg risked his life countless times to save my mother and 100,000 other Jews. So are we counting?
Okay, that's 4.
4. Batya.
Bitya.
Batya. Now her name, Batya. Like you look in Divrei Yomim 1, chapter 4, she's called Batya Bat Paro. Now Paro didn't speak Hebrew. He probably called her Miss Tut. Miss Tutankhamen. Whatever her name was there. Nefertiti. So the Medrash says Paro didn't take Ulpan 103, Yehuda. So we look at Bat. So the Medrash says no, her name was probably Nefertiti or Miss Tut. But God said, you called Moses your son, I am calling you my daughter. Mida keneged mida. So therefore, since Bas Paroi made Moshe her son, so God said, Mida keneged mida, therefore I am making you my daughter. And therefore he called her Bitya, Batya, which means what? The daughter of God. Wow. A pagan princess risked her life to defy her father. Again, the original Wallenberg. Pretty amazing, huh? And Zipporah, number 6.
Oh, yes.
What happened to her? Remember, Moses was incapacitated, remember? He was in the motel, and God wanted to take him out. I guess he chose the wrong motel. Moshe, 2-star hotel, better, He chose the wrong hotel, and God wanted to kill him. Very strange story there, right? Next time you better check your hotel. Right? So Rashi quotes the Gemara and the Dorim that the Malach turned into a giant anaconda and swallowed Moshe Rabbeinu. Incredible, sounds like a sci-fi horror movie. Remember? Rashi quotes the Gemara and the Dorim. And who saved his life? Zipporah. By circumcising the child. So therefore, throughout, there would be no Exodus and no Moshe Rabbeinu if it wasn't for what? These 6 heroines who saved Moshe's life and directly caused the Exodus. And what's strange, 3 out of the 6 are not even Jewish, no? Isn't that incredible? Well, your Shifra Pua is not. Look, if the Rashbam said it, you can take it to the bank. How could they both be right? Rashi says that Shifra and Pua were what? Yocheved and Miriam.
Yeah.
The Rashbam says that what? They were Egyptian midwives. Elu v'elu divrahim chayim. They're both right.
So they're both.
They were Yocheved and Miriam were midwives, and then there was Shifra and Pua. What's so difficult? Right? They're both right. There were Jewish midwives and there were pagan midwives, but the Chiddush is that they defied the king. I think it's called civil disobedience. Is that the original civil disobedience? That they objected, they risked their lives to spare innocent Jewish children. Eze heroes. Perhaps Wallenberg got his chizuk from Shifra and Pua. Perhaps. Who knows, right? What? Seeing the promised land, right? Now.
And how about Henry David Thoreau?
Yeah. Next week's parsha is Parshas Yisro. I said next week's parsha. No. This week is Bishalach. Next week is Parshas Yisro. In Parshas Yisro, it says, Kol Toma lebeis Yaakov v'taged lebnei Yisrael. So Rashi quotes the Mechilta. Who is the Beis Yaakov? The ladies. The Beis Yaakov is the ladies, and Bnei Yisrael are the men. So Rashi quotes the Mechilta. Where do you get ladies first? Rabbi Yaakov, where do you get ladies first from? God is a gentleman. Kol Toma leBeis Yaakov. Next week's Parsha, Yisro. God first spoke the Torah to the Beis Yaakov. Rashi quotes the Mechilta. Who are the Beis Yaakov? The Noshim, and only afterwards the Taged leBnei Yisrael. So Rashi says, according to the Mechilta, God first offered the Torah to what? To the ladies, the Bet Yaakov, and only later to the men. Therefore, you get you get the what? The concept of what? Ladies first. Ladies first. So we know God's a gentleman, but why take ladies first? It's a koras hatov to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. To the ladies, that because of the ladies, there is a Jewish people to redeem. If it wasn't for the women, there would be no Exodus. There would be no Moshe, no Exodus. So how does God thank the women? By offering to them the Torah first. This is God's kaviyochel expression, Chava, of what? Hakorat hatov. Because of you ladies, there's an Exodus. Otherwise, there would be no Exodus. Wow. So therefore, ladies first, so Bet Yaakov, and then Bnei Yisrael. Moshe Rabbeinu, the prince of Egypt. And then he became a fugitive to Midian. Nothing happens by chance. Why did Moshe have to grow up in the palace, the prince of Egypt, and then be a fugitive? Why did God plan it that way? Couldn't grow up in the slime pits. The Talmud says, Ein Navi mitnabe be'iro, Chava. A Navi cannot prophesy in his own hometown. Because people will say, I should listen to you. I remember you were the kid with the runny nose. I'm going to listen to you? So therefore, he had to grow up in the palace as a prince, not as a slave, to acquire leadership skills that will help him what? Lead the Jewish people. Because the leader has to gain respect of all. And if he grew up, says Ibn Ezra, in the slime pits, so why should I listen to you? You're a slave like me. So he grew up where? In America. I mean, in the palace. Derech Eretz. He grew up in Oxford, in the palace. So therefore, the Jewish people will have Derech Eretz for him. Because he grew up as a prince and not as a slave. He didn't have that slave mentality. He grew up in the palace and he acquired leadership skills and he acquired, I think it's called regal bearing. Is that what it's called? In this way, he will utilize those qualities, Yehuda, in order to what? To lead the Jewish people. Right? So to gain respect of all, and also Pharaoh, he grew up in the palace. Who's talking? Not a slave in the slime pits. Pharaoh's adopted own son. Then he had to flee to Midian. Why did he become a fugitive in Midian? Why? But why did God cause it like that? That he no longer belongs to Paro and royalty. Despite the fact, Connie, remember, where was Moshe Rabbeinu's playpen? Where do you think his playpen was? Where was his first bicycle? In the palace. So he still had what? Connections to the king. So he had to make this break irreversible, become a hunted fugitive, that even though his first bicycle was in Pharaoh's palace, now the break is total, complete, and now he can come back. Once his chains are broken, of gratitude to Paro after who raised him, now he has no choice to what? To flee, become a fugitive, and therefore he can now come back as what? As the Redeemer of the Jewish people. So everything that God does has what? A cheshbon. Now, just amazing that these 6 women that we mentioned, Connie, what makes them so amazing, you women have a bina yetera. You know what that means? You have the ability to think outside of the box. To save Moshe, right? To save Am Yisrael, we'll see soon, women have the unique ability to think outside of the box, not to be constricted by conventional wisdom. And we see that throughout Jewish history. Tamar, remember? She disguised herself as a zonah. That's pretty unconventional, wouldn't you say?
Sure.
She did what she had to do, because if she wouldn't have done that, Yehuda would never plant the seed of the Messiah in her womb. Where's Mashiach going to come from? So she thought outside of the box, forcing Yehuda to have relations with her, to plant the seed of the Mashiach in her womb. And who was the child? Peretz. Mashiach is called what? Ben Partzi. Wouldn't you say, Yehuda, that's thinking outside of the box? The Bina Yetera. And later on, Ruth the Moabite, a former go-go dancer in Moab, no less. No, Ruth was Moab, made Las Vegas look like a kindergarten. Moab, the symbol of immorality. Comes Ruth, and what does she do? She throws herself at Boaz, demeaning an 80-year-old man. But she knew that what? Boaz has to plant the seed of Mashiach in her womb. So she resorted to unconventional methods, to say the least. Right? In the middle of the field there, in the middle of the night. And he planted the seed of the Mashiach in her. Oved, the grandfather of what? David HaMelech. And the next night, the next day, he was dead. The Medrash says that after, on the honeymoon night, the next morning, Boaz was dead. So imagine the headlines, I don't know, the Jewish Press or the Inquirer. The headlines in the Jewish Press. Chief Judge of Israel, Boaz, the Chief Judge of Israel, the Shofet, dead on honeymoon night. So what do the wagging tails say? It serves him right. He was 80. She was 40. Okay. No spring chicken either, but half his age. So the wagging tail said, it's shame on you, Mr. Chief Rabbi. A wild night with a wild Moabite woman. What a way to go. But the Medrash says something incredible. You see the way God looks at things. He tells the Isaiah, the prophet, my ways are not your ways, and my thoughts are not your thoughts. Don't try to figure me out. The Medrash says that Boaz's time was up the night before. He lived to a ripe old age, ben shmonim ligvura. He was supposed to what? Die the night before. God kept him alive one more night to plant the seed of the Messiah in the womb of what? And then beam me up, Scotty. So we don't know God's cheshbonot. Wagging tails didn't look at it that way. Right, Avram? Wagging tongues. Thank you. Right? Wagging tongues were busy. Serves them right? Right? But no, God has other cheshbonot. What we see from here, that women have this bina yetera, to take the bull by the horn, and to resort to unconventional methods, thinking outside the box, in order to perpetuate the Jewish people. And later on, Esther. And this week's Haftorah, Yael, it's incredible. Yael, Eshes Chever Hakeni, she saved the Jewish people by demeaning herself. Pretty incredible. Women have this Bina Yetera. Without them, where would we be? That's pretty amazing. Let's take a look. What? Well, what? Let's take a look at first at our source sheets. Please take a look at the side that it says Shemot Aleph. You have that? Shemot Aleph? Do you have that? Shemot Aleph? It says Shemot Aleph on it. Perik Bet, Posuk Aleph. Vayelech ish me Bet Levi. A man went from the house of Levi. Where did the man go? Look at the footnote, Torah Tamima. You see that? Bet Aleph, Vayelech ish, Lehechen Halach. Where did he go? I'm reading the footnote, Bet Aleph in Torah Tamima. Omer Yehuda Bazivna, Sholach Patzas Bito. It's in yellow. I highlighted in yellow. He went with his daughter's advice. Tani, Amram Godlav Dorhoy. Amram was the chief rabbi of that generation. Kivin Shagoza Paroi Kala Ben Yil. Once Pharaoh decreed that what? That all the baby boys have to what? Be thrown in the river. So he said, why should I stay married and have children? They'll wind up in Auschwitz. Omad the Goresh as Ishta. You have the place, Yuda. He got up and he divorced his wife. Why have children that wind up in Auschwitz? V'amdu kulam. So if the chief rabbi divorces his wife, v'amdu kulam, and what? And they all divorced their wives. So that's the final solution to the Jewish problem. Right, Evelyn? That's it? Why have kids that wind up in the bottom of the Nile River? Final solution, no more Jewish people. Amr Loi Bitai, little Miriam said, Abba. Do you have the place? You don't have the place? It's underlined there. Amr Loi Bitai, Abba. Father, your decree is worse than Pharaoh. You hear? Your decree is worse than Pharaoh. Why? Pharaoh only decreed that what? That the baby boys are going to be killed. V'ata, by separating from mommy, gezarta ala scharim, ba'ala nekevot. You also preventing not just the boys from being born, but also what? The girls. Next, little Miriam. Pharaoh only decreed in this world. V'ata gezarta ba'ala mazeh ba'ala bo. You, by preventing a baby from being born, you are preventing the baby from reaching its proper place in Olam Haba. Did you know that? So Rashi explains there in Sota, page 12, that only when a child is born, no matter how long it lives, the very fact that it's born in this world, only then can it reach its proper place in Olam Haba. But by preventing a baby from being born, you are preventing it from reaching its proper place in Olam Haba. You hear? So little Miriam gave her chief rabbi, her father, rebuke. And because of her, what did he do? Vayelech, he went with her what? Eitzah, how do you say advice? And he remarried what? And who was born? Moshe. And then all the other Hasidim, if the Rebbe remarries his wife, Kani, all the Hasidim what? And they had children. So if it wasn't for the ladies, there'd be no Jewish people to redeem. There'd be no babies. What do you mean?
They couldn't remarry their wives.
There was no Torah wasn't given yet, Rivka. Keep the 7, go to heaven. The Torah wasn't given yet. So Miriam is praised over here for her rebuke. She rebukes her father, you're worse than Pharaoh, Papa. And she's praised. Yes? He took her advice. And what? He remarried the mother, and Moshe Rabbeinu was born, and all the other Hasidim remarried their wives, and the Jewish people were able to what? Perpetuate themselves. I don't understand. 80 years later, Connie, 80 years later, she also rebukes her brother for the same offense. She said, why are you separating from your lovely wife, Tzipporah, breaking up a happy home? There she's criticized. Here, when she rebukes her father for divorcing her mother. She's praised. 80 years later, Connie, when she rebukes her brother for divorcing his wife, Abraham, there she's what? Condemned. I don't understand it.
One track advice. Just say advice all the time.
What?
She didn't say it to him.
Beautiful,
Went
Mekimia.
behind his back.
Beautiful. Mekimia said the answer, this is a key. Here, she said, Abba, I got a bone to pick with you. Can we go into the den and discuss it privately? Meyachuz. You have something to say, even to a parent, you discuss it privately. But 80 years later, she didn't go to Moshe Rabbeinu. She went behind his back, and that's classic Lashon Hara. Even though it's true, you got a bone to pick with somebody, don't go behind his back, even to another sibling. That's classic Lashon Hara, and that's the only difference. Therefore, here she's praised for her rebuke, but 80 years later by Moshe, she's punished because unlike here, she didn't confront Moshe privately. Connie, she went behind his back to another sibling, and even though she meant well, that is considered what? Classic Lashon Hara. That's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing, huh? Okay. Now, very interesting. Let's take a look at the other side of the paper. Just please turn the paper over. Shemos Pashas Vayakel. You have that in the heading? Shemot Vayakel Yehuda. That's in the heading, right? Yes?
Yeah, right, yeah.
Look at Pasuk Chet, the first of the wide lines. See Pasuk Chet? You don't. Vayaset Akior. You have? I think it's underlined, isn't it?
It's in green.
It's in green. The first of the wide lines, Yehuda. You have it. Vayaset Akior. He made the wash basin. Who's the he? B'Tzalel? Evelyn. He made the wash basin. Nechoshet from brass. There's Kano Nechoshet. And the stand of the wash basin, the Mishkan from brass. B'marot hatzavot. From the mirrors of the armies. Rabbi Yaakov, what does that mean? You know, the Mishkan, you had to donate precious metal, right? One of the metal they donated was brass. What did B'Tzalel do with the brass? He made the wash basin. Before the Kohanim can approach the altar, what do they have to do? Wash their hands and feet with the brass kior. Where did B'Tzalel get the brass? From the Marot HaTzavot. From the mirrors of the armies. Now, what does that mean?
The army's winning.
1 minute. There's a pasuk in Pashas Vayakel. Vayavo Anoshim al Hanoshim. When the call came to bring precious metal to the Mishkan, the Torah says in Pashas Vayakel, Rabbi Yaakov, Vayavo Anoshim al Hanoshim. The men came. What does al Hanoshim mean? Says the Ramban, because of the women. Beglal Hanoshim. The Ramban says something amazing. The men only came with their gold Rolex watches only because of the women. Now, the Ramban points out something amazing. We have time, right? The Mishkan was a kapara for the Chet Egel. Does God need a golden Mishkan? The whole universe was supposed to, plan A, the whole universe was supposed to be what? God's Mishkan. The Jews showed they couldn't relate, it's too abstract. They made a golden getchka. So the Medrash says, why did God command a golden Mishkan? Yovai zov shebe Mishkan, v'yechaper zov shebe egel. Let the gold of the Mishkan come and atone for what? The golden calf. God says, you like gold? Do it my way. Da 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 da. The tikkun comes from the chet. You sinned with gold. You made a golden calf. Now take gold and build a golden mishkan. Yehuda, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Did the women sin? The Medrash says women didn't sin with the egel. So they didn't need the kapara. And yet they came with their golden jewelry and forced their husbands to come. The men who needed the kapara because they worshipped the golden calf, they didn't want to give up their golden Rolex watches. right, to be melted down to make the golden vessels. But vayvo anoshim al anoshim. The text says the men came only because of the women. Otherwise, no supper for you tonight. You're sleeping on the couch. So even though the Mishkan was a kapara for the Egel, and the women didn't sin with the Egel, Afal Pikain, they came running with what? With their golden jewelry. That's pretty amazing. Women have this bina yetera. So they didn't need the kapara, and yet they came with their jewelry, and even they came with their brass mirrors. Yehuda, what's so amazing about that?
Because they looked at themselves in the mirror.
So look at Rashi, Reb Ruvain. Look at this amazing Rashi. You have Rashi Chet. I think it's highlighted, Yehuda, isn't it? Rashi Chet, B'marot atzavot. On the right side, B'marot atzavot, the mirrors of the armies. Rabbi Yaakov, you have that? Benot Yisrael hoya b'yadan marot. The Jewish girls, women had these mirrors. In those days, you didn't have any glass mirrors. What did you use for mirror? The brass. They shined it up. Sheraot behen keshehem iskashtot. Right? They used it in their makeup kit. They use it in Yiddish to ausgeputzt. How do you say that? Ausgeputzt. With the mirrors, put on the makeup and the eyelashes. Vaf otan. Even such a personal item, Yehuda. Like a mirror, when the call came for brass, they didn't hold back. They ran with their brass, even though they didn't need the tikkun. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. They didn't sin with the egel. Yet they came running with their brass mirrors. And Moshe rejected them. I'm not accepting these mirrors, girls. You use these mirrors to make yourself what? Sexy? Feh! Take it back. God said to Moshe Rabbeinu, Avram, you listening? Kabel, Moses, these ladies know better than you. Accept these mirrors. Ki elu chavivin alai. These mirrors are more precious to me min hakol. From any gold watch that a chief rabbi would bring, Yehuda. Why? Shal yidehem heimidu hanoshim tzavoet rabbis of Mitzrayim. Through these mirrors and their makeup kits, the ladies were able to raise up an army of Jewish babies in Mitzrayim. So Marot Atzavot means the mirrors that caused an army of Jewish babies to be born. What does that mean? I'm reading Rashi. Have it, Yehuda. It's the best way to learn Hebrew. Their husbands were broken. With back-breaking work. They were broken physically and mentally. Who could think about having children? The ladies, the Egyptians wouldn't allow the men to come home at night. They had to stay in the field. Solution to the Jewish problem. The men can't go home for the night. Final solution to the Jewish problem. So what did the ladies do, Connie? They took picnic baskets and their makeup kits. I think that's called thinking out of the box. I think that's what it's called. It's amazing medrash Rashi's quoting Reb Ruvain. They took along makeup kits with their mirrors and picnic baskets. The noitlois hamarot, and took along the mirrors and the makeup. V'chol achad roya atzma imbala b'mara, and each one would what? Put on the makeup with their husband in the mirror, mishtalta b'dvarim, and they would seduce their husbands with what? Lovey-dovey talk. These are Beis Yaakov girls, Connie. Don't tell nobody. They would seduce their husbands with lovey-dovey talk. Look how pretty I am. You like my eyelashes and my latest shaitel? Look at the top of the Rashi. You got to look at inside of Yaakov. Judah, what's the top word there? Meviot lebaleim yedei tava. Through these makeup kits and the mirrors that doll themselves up and lovey-dovey talk, they brought their husbands. What's the next word, Yedei? What, Yehuda? What's the next word? Tava. What does tava mean?
Desire.
Turn them on. Tell it like it is. There are no cover-ups in Rashi. Rashi doesn't cover up Mekimia.
Rabbi,
Do they teach this in seminaries? I don't know, Rabbi Abramson.
Rabbi, when I've read
They
this
brought,
before-
what?
When I've read this before, you know what I thought of? Don't sit under the apple.
Oh, you read my mind. That's my song. Let me sing it. I'm not there yet.
Okay.
They brought their husbands a day tava, to passion. They were broken physically and spiritually, Evelyn. Who's going to think about having babies? To wind up in Auschwitz in the bottom of the Nile River? They couldn't even go home at night. So the women, thinking outside the box, snuck out with picnic baskets and makeup kits. They made themselves pretty for their husbands and lovey-dovey talk, and they brought their husbands a day tava, passion. V'skokos lahem. And they had relations with them out there in the field, Connie. Is that tznius? I hope so. I don't know. Maybe they brought tents along.
Well, maybe they at least brought big blankets.
Maybe big blankets. V'niskokot lahem u'misabrot yoldosham. They had relations with them. They got pregnant and they gave birth where? Out in the field. Shenemar. Shir Ashirim. Avram Berkowitz, Talmud Yeshalmi says that the whole Bible is Kodesh. Shir Ashirim is what? Kodesh Kadoshim. Talmud Yeshalmi. Rabbi Akiva says that the holiest book in the Bible is what? Say what? Say what? Doesn't even have God's name there. What's written in Shir Ashirim Chet? Reb Ruvain. Tachas hatapuach orarticha. Underneath the apple tree I aroused you. Who's saying that to whom? Who's saying that to whom? The Jewish wife is saying to her hubby. Do you remember? Don't sit underneath the apple tree with anybody but me. Anybody but me. They got everything from us. Well, they were Jewish, the Andrews sisters. Of course they were Jewish. They must have learned this Rashi, Abraham. They must have learned this Rashi. I'm not joking. Shir Ashirim 8. Tachas atapuch araticha. Underneath the apple tree I aroused you. And therefore this book is what? Kodesh Kadoshim. Because these Jewish women were able to think outside of the box. Wow. V'zeh shenema b'maros hatzavot. And that's what the Pasuk says here in Pasuk Chet Yehuda. These are the mirrors that caused an army of what? Of Jewish babies to be born, v'nasakir mehem, and they made the wash basin, losum shalom and ishel ishto. You hear this? To make peace between a husband and his wife, because the kior was also used not just for the Kohanim to wash their hands and feet, but in case a woman was suspected of adultery, they would give her to drink the sota mixed with what? From this kior. Right? With this kior water, and that would make peace between husband and wife, hopefully, right? Now, so what? Now that's just amazing. We say, Hareyat mikudeshes li. Why do we say that to the wife? Behold, you are
Sanctified.
What does that mean? My Rebbe said, Bishvilach ani mikadesh. What are we saying to the woman? Because of you, I get my kedusha. You hear this? Hared b'kadesh li. The Gemara says in Masechta Yevamot that a person without a wife is incomplete. Hared b'kadesh li. Because of you, I am attaining my kedusha. I'm fulfilling my purpose in life by getting married and having children. So
Until you get a wife, you're not complete.
You're incomplete.
Until you're finished.
The Gemara. Oh, you hear what you would have said? Without a wife, you're incomplete. Once you get a wife, you're finished.
That's the difference between Shalem and
Oh, that's hitting below the belt. But anyway, so again, it's just amazing that women have this Bina Yetera, not to operate through conventional wisdom, and right out there underneath the apple tree, like Chava said, they must have brought big blankets, or hopefully a tent, should be motzniut, and this was responsible for the courage of these women, their courage to be able to what? Think outside of the box, to have this Bina Yefera, and they were able to what? Make sure that there was a people to redeem. And therefore, God says by Matan Torah, ladies first. Yehuda, because without the ladies, there'd be no one to give the Torah to. So God is makir toiv to the women. And therefore, Beis Yaakov comes before what? Now, there's amazing. The Ebenezer points this out, Rabbi Ruvain. The Kior, every vessel in the Mishkan had specific weight and measures, except one. The Kior. The Ebenezer points this out. Let's say a chief rabbi wakes up one morning and says, here, I want you to take my gold Rolex, Bezalel, melt it down, and put it into the ark. What would Bezalel say? Sorry, we already have. How about use it in the golden altar? How about in the golden table? Sorry, chief rabbi, you're too late. Every vessel, every piece of furniture in the Mishkan, Rabbi Yaakov had specific weight and measure. So you wanted to give your gold watch, you woke up too late. Bezalel could not take it because it's already overweight. The only vessel that did not have a specific weight and measure was Reb Ruvain, what? The Kior.
That was copper, right?
That was brass. So the Ebenezer points out, that what? That even 39 years later, a lady would wake up and take out her brass mirror from the attic. Bezalel would have no choice but to what? Accept it. And the Kior go bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Wow. This is God's Hakara Satoiv to the women because of these holy mirrors that Moshe said, Feh. Moshe said, Feh. Yetzirah. God said, the ladies know better than you. No, we're deputizing the Yetzirah. We're deputizing him, Connie. We're using him to create an army of Jewish babies. Wow. So God says, those mirrors are more precious to me than any gold watch a chief rabbi could bring. And therefore the Kior, says Ebenezer, was the only vessel that did not have a specific weight and measure. Whenever a lady brought her her brass mirror, Bezalel would have to what? Take it and what? Bang it in to the Kior. This is God's Hakara Tatov for what? For what? For ladies thinking outside the box. Otherwise, who do you give the Torah to? No babies? Who are you giving the Torah to? This week's Parsha. It says, Vatetzeno kol anosh matikach Miriam. Miriam Neviah took a tatof. She took the drum and the tambourine. Vatetzeno kol anoshim etupim mecholot. Miriam took the women. She took them singing with tupim b'cholot. Mazeh tupim, drums, mama b'cholot. It means tambourines and dancing. You hear? So Rashi asked the question, where do you get tambourines and drums in the Sinai desert? There's no Sam Goody stores over there. Remember Sam Goody? I remember Sam Goody. Wait. So Rashi, where do you get drums and tambourine? Mr. Tambourine Man. Where do they get the tambourines and the drums? So Rashi says, Ruvain, incredible. Rashi in this week's Parsha. Rashi says, Muftachot hoya tzidkoniot. The righteous women of that generation were assured, Shakurish Baruch Hu osel lahem nisim, that God would what? Perform miracles for them, and therefore they took out drums and tambourines from Mitzrayim. You hear this? The men were busy taking what? The diamond bracelets and the jewelry. The women were busy raiding the Sam Goody stores, taking drums and tambourines, because the women knew, Connie, that what? That God's going to perform a miracle. The men didn't know that. It's just amazing what Rashi is saying. Women have a bina yetera, that the highest service to HaKadosh Baruch Hu is through what? Music, dancing, and what? Musical. And where did King David learn to serenade God with musical instruments, Avram? Where did he learn it from? From Moshe and Aaron? No, the ladies here. Rashi says no. Women have a bina yetera. They're more closer to him. The Shekhinah, feminine. So the women knew that the highest form of worshiping God is through what? Klei zemer. Musical instruments. Therefore King David picked, even Moshe and Aaron didn't take out what? Klei zemer. Right? Because the women have the Bina Yetera to understand that the highest worship to Hashem is through Klei Zemer. So therefore, David and the Levites in the Beis Hamikdash, you had a concert twice a day. You didn't have to go to Carnegie Hall. Connie, you didn't have to go to Carnegie Hall. The Levites had an whole orchestra there. Tambourines, cymbals, drums, violins, harps. Where did they learn it from, Sharona? You ladies, not from Moshe and Aaron. Rashi says, no, muftachot hoya tzidkoniot. Shakadosh Baruch Hu osher lahem nisim, and they knew that the highest form of serving God is through what? Dancing and klei zemer, and therefore they took out.
Only people can play instruments. You don't see a lot of squirrels playing the violins.
Yeah, that's right. Really interesting, okay? Pretty amazing, huh? So you have Shirat Devorah, this week's Parsha, the Haftorah Shirat Devorah. Right? Not her husband Barak. Devorah sang. She was the Neviah. Her husband was a Nuchschlepper. What? What? His name was Barak Lapidus. That was Radak says. His name was Mr. Barak Lapidus. Never heard of a name like that? Mr. Lapidus. Barak Lapidot. They both mean lightning, right? So he was the chief of the army, and she was the great prophetess, and she gave him, you think he was henpecked? I hope not. She gave him orders, and he said yes, you know. But he realized that she was what? Head and shoulders above him in the spiritual world, right? She realized that. And the great victory that took place, parallel to what? The Kriyas Yamsuf, the great victory. They had 900 tanks, the Canaanites, and what did we have, Connie? Pea shooters. What did we have? Like the Bechemet HaShichrur. The Arabs had air force and tanks. What did we have? Seltzer bottles and a Davitka. That's what we had. Seltzer bottles, you know, it whistles on the way down. Remember the movie? It's true. It's true, right? It whistles the way. Seltzer bottles and one cannon, the Davitka. It roared. The miracles of Devorah and Barak were duplicated in the Mechemet HaShichrur, right? We had World War I rifles, Avram. They had Arabs' tanks and airplanes. Eze miracles. We see God's wonderful chesed repeating itself constantly through Jewish history. Unbelievable, right? The first mitzvah that God gave us as a people was what? Kiddush HaChodesh, right? Kiddush HaChodesh. HaChodesh hazeh lechem, Rosh Chodashim. Why is that the first mitzvah that God gave us as a people? We got Brit Milah, we got Gid HaNosheh, that was the individual. But the first mitzvah given to us as a people was what? Kiddush HaChodesh. What?
To women.
Go ahead.
I'm guessing you've talked about it.
Yeah, so tell me.
I don't remember.
Help me out. Why is that the first mitzvah? I'm throwing out the question. Right? HaChodesh hazeh lochem. So why is that the first mitzvah? The word chodesh from the word chidush. I'll tell you something amazing, like Reuven said. The power to rejuvenate yourself. Get it? Rejuvenate. Without that power, we're going nowhere. How could we be here 3,700 years later? Where are the Phoenicians? Where are the Babylonians? Where are the Assyrians? Where are the Romans? Where are the Greeks? Where are they? On the 60 feet of sand. How come we're still here? We have the power of Chodesh, the power of Chidush, the power to renew ourselves. That despite all of the tzarot, all of the Holocaust, 3 years after Auschwitz, Chava, 3 years after Auschwitz, to come and build this wonderful country, the envy of the whole world. 3 years, a third of our people were murdered. A third of our people, to come here 3 years later after Auschwitz, and to rebuild the wonderful state of Israel, it's not normal. Which nation can do that? Because no nation has a chodesh hazeh lechem, the power of renewal. So it had to be the first mitzvah, otherwise we couldn't get anywhere. We would be gone, like the Phoenicians and the Assyrians and the Romans and the Greeks. It's just amazing. Rosh Chodesh is the yontiv of women. Why is that? Why is Rosh Chodesh the Yom Tov of the women? What am I, chopped liver, Abraham? Beautiful. But what? So what? You're begging the question. You're begging the question. Fasten your seatbelts. Rosh Chodesh. The Zohar says that the Jewish people are compared to the moon. The moon is shrouded in darkness, surrounded in blackness. It looks like we're about to be swallowed up by the blackness. And all of a sudden, what? We're the great comeback kid. We rejuvenate ourselves, Rabbi Abraham. What's the symbol of the rejuvenation, the renewal? What? The moon. Therefore, we follow a lunar calendar. The nations of the world are bold, brass, arrogant like the sun. And we're never, surrounded in blackness. Looks like we're about to disappear. Auschwitz, pogroms, and all of a sudden what? We're rejuvenated, renewed. You know why Rosh Chodesh is a holiday for women? Chava, Rosh Chodesh, can you see the moon? Can you see the moon, Rivka, on Rosh Chodesh?
No.
All you see is blackness. Okay, let's get real. Rosh Chodesh, you can't see the moon. All you see is blackness. So men, we have Yush. It looks like after Auschwitz,
We have nothing.
they have nothing. It's black. You women know that just because it looks black, it's not going to stay black. We're going to renew us. There will be a new moon. Rosh Chodesh is uniquely the yontiv of women because men tend to be pessimists, like divorcing their wives in Mitzrayim. Why have children? No future anyway. It's the women with their unconventional wisdom who said, no, it looks black now. Rosh Chodesh is black. But I know we have a promise from HaKadosh Baruch Hu that we will shine again. So therefore, Rosh Chodesh is dafke the yontiv of women. Women have this bina yetera, the stronger bitachon. Even though it's black now, there will be a new moon. Because we are compared to the moon. So therefore, it's your yontiv, Rivka. You hear? You had a question?
Women also renew themselves.
Nachon, same idea. Rejuvenate themselves. It's all built in. This incredible power of what? Of renewal. That even though it looks black and hopeless, don't be fooled, Connie. No. There will be a new moon. How do I know? Because look at the moon. So therefore, Rosh Chodesh is dafke what? The holiday of women. Without the power of Chidush, we're not going anywhere. Sforno gives other reasons why the calendar had to be the first mitzvah time. The clearest distinction between a slave and a ben chorin. Does a slave have time? A slave's time belongs to Tutankhamen. Don't belong to him. A slave has no time. What's the clearest proof you're no longer a slave?
You have time.
Time is your own. HaChodesh hazeh lochem. I'm giving you the gift of time. You didn't have that when you were a slave. It didn't belong to you. Appreciate your time. Beautiful, Yehuda. You're no longer a slave. Demonstrate you appreciate your freedom. I'm giving you time. Make something from time. Kill time, waste time, or sanctify time. So therefore, it had to be the first mitzvah. This is Hakaras HaTov HaKadosh Baruch Hu, demonstrating that we appreciate our freedom, and that's demonstrated most clearly by being able to what? Utilize time, and not kill time, waste time. And therefore also, V'yigadat lebincha, one of the first mitzvahs is the Haggadah. Another clear sign that a person is no longer a slave. Remember Roots with Kinte Kinte? I'm dating myself. Roots, Kinte Kinte, I'm going back, I think 1976. Chava, you remember that? Do slaves have a family relationship? The children are not their own. A slave gives birth to a child, the master takes the child away and sells him. There's no parent-child relationship when you're a slave. What's the clearest proof you're no longer a slave? V'yigadat lebincha. You can tell over to your children. As a slave, you couldn't do that. A slave can't open up his mouth. Yes, boss. No, boss.
No, boss.
Right? You can't talk. Pesach, the Zohar says Pesach. In Hebrew, a samach and a sin interchange. What does Pesach mean? The mouth speaks. Why is that so important to speak? No, the yontiv, you have a mitzvah to speak about the sukkah. You have a mitzvah to speak about the sukkah, Avram? No, just sit in the sukkah. Is there a mitzvah to speak about the shofar? No, just blow it. Ma nishtana Pesach. Oh, I got kasha number 5. Chav, you can't ask the same 4 kashas every year. I have a 5th one. Ma nishtana Pesach. Mikol hachagim. It's the only chag where it's not enough to do the mitzvah. You have to what? Talk about it. Unlike shofar, lulav, the mitzvah to talk about the lulav and the sukkah? No, just do it. Pesach is different. Not enough just to eat Pesach matzah and morer. You have to what?
Talk about it.
Ma nishtana, Avram. Why? What's the answer? The clearest sign you're no longer a slave, you could talk to your child. You couldn't do that when you were Kunta Kunte or Uncle Tom. So demonstrate your freedom, appreciate your freedom by talking and telling over parent-child relationship, which was not there when you were what? An Evet. So therefore, Pesach, parent-child relationship, this demonstrates clearly that we appreciate God's gift of what? Of freedom. And therefore, Pesach is unique. There is no other yontiv. There's a mitzvah to talk about sitting in a sukkah, blowing a shofar. No. Just do it. Pesach, no. If you do it, if you don't talk about it, it's incredible. The Mishnah says, Gamliel says, whoever doesn't talk about Pesach matzah morer, he just eats it. It's like he ate what? Like what? He ate turkey. Didn't do anything. Pretty amazing. Any questions, comments? Yes? Rabbi Yaakov, yes. What? Bill of a Zilpah. Bill of a Zilpah. What did we hear about them? Torah is not a history book. Good question. Torah is not a history. How come they didn't become the mothers? There should be 6 mothers. You asked me a good question. That question always bothered me. We speak about the 4 mothers. What about Bill of a Zilpah? Well, they chop liver. Without them, there's no 12 tribes. You've asked me a good tekasha. How come they're out of the loop, Rabbi Yaakov? That's your homework assignment. How come Bill of a Zilpah are outside of the loop? Without them, there would be no shiftei kah. I'm stumped. This kasha bothered me for years.
But it's because
I don't know why.
Rachel and Leah actually got
So what?
involved.
They gave birth to 4 tribes.
They did.
So why without them, there's no shiftei kah? How come they don't get top billing? Reb Ruvain, I don't know. I'm stumped.
But it was their
Homework assignment. So what?
Rachel and Leah's
I don't know.
competition with each other.
That's your homework assignment. Thank you very much. Toda Rabba.